Hi there, dear listeners, and welcome to another edition of Starry Skies, your monthly magazine about the heavens above and what to see this month of March.
Yay!
I'm Mark Hardaker. We're in fine form this month. I tell you, fine form. I'm Mark Hardaker.
Yeah, I'm Steve Tonkin, and we're going to show you a lot about a lion.
Yeah, we are. We're going to get really into it this month about Leo the lion. But we're also going to be talking about the dwindling number of planets that we can see. It's a pretty grim month for planets, isn't it?
How does that happen, though, Mark, that we get a dwindling number?
Well, they all slowly disappear into the twilight. And, of course, you can't see the planets when they're near the sun, so you can only see them at night, clearly. Yep. What else is March? It's equinox time.
It is, yeah.
What's that?
The word equi means equal and nox means night. So it's the time of the year where your night is the same length as the day. That is, sunrise to sunset is the same length as sunset to sunrise.
Is that everywhere the same around the world?
It is exactly the same everywhere around the world. And
Right.
It's the one day of the year, well, it's actually one of 2 days of the year, the other one being the autumnal equinox, where if you watch the sunrise and you watch the sunrise shadows, they point due west as the sun's coming up.
Right. And that is, of course, the exact moment of when the sun crosses the equator, coming from south to north, right,
Yep,
in
that's
spring,
right. Yep.
and from north to south in autumn. And that occurs this year on Wednesday, the 20th of March at 3:06 a.m. in the morning. So we know exactly when it happens, don't we?
Yeah, but we won't see that because the sun will be below the horizon. And you'll also notice when you get near the equinox, if you look at the rising position of the sun on the horizon, it's when it's moving fastest from day to day. The difference in rising position from day to day is much, much greater than at the solstices, which is the other quarters of the year, which when the sun sticks, solstice, and it's almost the same position of sunrise every day for a few days.
Yeah. And near the equinox, the length of day is lengthening at its most per day, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about February, Steve? Wasn't that just I think, from what I've heard this morning, I think it was on the BBC, I read that February has been the wettest month on record. And certainly for astronomers, that's been grim.
It has. There have been a few little patches where you've been able to see stuff through the cloud, but we've been mostly really unfortunate. But we did have one really good night with Fordingbridge astronomers when we had our beginners observing session. So we were teaching newcomers to the club, newcomers to astronomy, what they can see in the sky for real rather than doing it on computers or talking about it here or anything like that. Fantastic evening.
Yeah. And we do that in dark sky places around the New Forest. That particular time we were at Hyde. But we also will come to you wherever you want. If you have a club or a school or Scouts or Guides or whatever, and you'd like us to show you around the sky at night, just drop us a line. info@fordingbridgeastro.org.uk, and we will certainly get a couple of astronomers together and show you what's up in the sky anytime.
And it will help if you can organise it for a clear skies day.
Can you please do that?
And the time to avoid is about a week either side of full moon, because the moon then is so bright it washes out the other things that are worth seeing.
Yeah. So this month, in the month of March, the new moon is on the 10th, Sunday the 10th. So 3 or 4 days either side of that is perfect for observing for astronomers like us. Because then as the moon waxes, gets bigger, it becomes full on the 25th of March. And again, several days around that time, the stars are drowned out, the deep sky objects, the galaxies and clusters that we love, you can barely see. So try and stick around the new moon time, around the 10th of March.
And that full moon just after the equinox is the reason that Easter is so early this year, of course. Because Easter is the Sunday after the first full moon after the equinox.
Right. I should be able to remember that. I can never remember that. And
So,
when is Easter this year?
well, sort of.
When is Easter this year? I can't remember. 26th of...
I can't remember.
Sorry, dear listeners, we don't know.
Waffling. We're waffling.
again,
It's going to be the Sunday. It's going to be the Easter Sunday. It's going to be the Sunday after the 25th.
Right.
Whatever Sunday
Whatever
that is.
that is. Right. So, moving right along. Planets. Rather disappointing this month, as we said. But the one highlight this month, and it's an unusual one, is for you to go out and try and find Mercury. Well, Mercury, as many of you will know, is an inferior planet, not because it's no good, but because it's inside our orbit, so it's nearer to the Sun. And we should be able to see it visible in the west in mid-month. So from around about the 11th, 12th of March to around about the 24th, 5th of March, have a look in the west about 40 minutes after sunset. Have your binoculars with you, and you'll definitely be able to see it. It's quite, how would I best describe it? It's bright, but it's not dazzling. It's not like Venus, is it?
No, it's one of those things. Because it's only ever visible in a twilight sky, a lot of people never see it.
Yeah,
it's the most elusive of the main planets that the ancients knew about.
Yeah, and there was rumours, I think, that Copernicus, our Polish astronomer back in the day, in his hazy, cloudy days in Poland, I think, didn't ever see it. Didn't ever see. That's the rumour, or whether that's true or not. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we'll post a chart on the Forest FM website and also on the Fordingbridge Astronomers and Wessex sites as to how you would find Mercury in these mid-few days of March.
Yeah, and just the one thing, if you're using binoculars in particular, please don't even start looking for it until the sun has fully set beneath the horizon. Yeah. Because one thing you don't want to risk is looking at the sun with binoculars. It could permanently damage your eyesight.
Yeah, and we know that Patrick Moore used to go on about this virtually every Sky at Night meeting, and he's quite right, because you catch a glimpse, just a flash of the sun through any optical aid, and your retina is permanently burned and damaged, and you'll never recover it. So let's not have any accidents, please.
Exactly.
Anyway, so that'll be Mercury. So I hope you can let us know if you see it. If you're in the Verwood area, get up high onto maybe St Stephen's, where you got a good view out to the west, or maybe out the Gussage way towards the hills over there. Have a look west, and you should see Mercury there, low in the sky.
You do need a good western horizon, good horizon for an astronomer means low down, no trees and stuff in the way, or hills in the way.
Yeah. So that's Mercury. The other inferior planet inside our orbit, of course, is Venus, which has virtually disappeared. We've had such a lovely show from it this last year, but now
it's gorgeous.
It's gone. It's gone. Also, Mars, which is quite close to Venus in the sky right now, not visible.
Nope, gone.
So all we're left with, and it's hanging on for grim death, is Jupiter, Steve.
Yeah. Now, Jupiter's still there in the west. It's the brightest star that you'll see in that part of the sky. Yep. It's not actually a star, of course, but it is the brightest object apart from the moon that you will see in that part of the sky. And do have a look in binoculars. If you've got to have a small telescope, use a telescope. Binoculars will show you some of the moons that Galileo saw. A telescope will show you markings on the surface and will more easily show you the moons. And you could actually sometimes watch them do what's called a transit, which is when they cross the planet.
Yeah. And a small telescope will show you that, the sort of 3-inch telescope that you may have at home, or very good large binoculars. But a telescope here, in this case, I think is better.
Yeah, for planetary detail, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. I'm a big fan of binoculars, but it's not the instrument of choice for planets, really.
I didn't think I'd ever hear him say that, really, that binoculars not the instrument of choice.
For planets. For planets.
Oh, right, I see. Okay, right. So we're moving on with Saturn, morning sky, still not really visible, forget about it. No. And then the others, Uranus and Neptune, too faint to bother with, really. So it's really Jupiter and Mercury this month, and by April it's going to be even worse. We're going to have nothing to see in April. So what we're going to talk about then? We'll find something.
We'll find something. There's always something in the sky to talk about.
Absolutely.
We might even have a brightening comet you can have a look at.
Indeed.
Possibly.
Yes. We've got several comets in the sky right now. None of them are bright enough to see with the naked eye, so let's not make a big deal about it. But one of them possibly could become naked eye during the second half of April. We'll talk about that more next month. Comet Pons-Brooks, it's called, after the astronomers who found it, and we'll keep you posted. It may be bright enough to see with a naked eye low in the April sky. So, how about the lion?
Leo. This is, for most people, the only constellation that actually looks a bit like what it's meant to be.
Exactly. Yeah, Leo the lion is a zodiac constellation. I mean, some of you, 1/12 of you listening on average, will be Leo people, according to astrology. And it does look like a recumbent lion to me.
It does.
You can see its head, obviously, as a backward question mark in the sky. And we've got to have a look on the Forest FM website now. We've got a star map of Leo up there, and all the things that we're just going to talk about you'll see in the map. So just pop on the website now, and there you'll see it. The zodiac constellation, that means the sun and the moon and all the planets pass through there periodically.
Yep.
We don't have any going through there now, do we? No. Well, the moon, of course, once a month will always pass through Leo. But to the ancient Greeks, this lion was the Nemean lion. Mm-hmm. He was killed by our Greek hero Heracles.
Heracles, not Hercules.
Who has been called Hercules in various movies and other things.
Yeah. Well, that was the Roman name for him, I believe.
Yes, it was. And one of his 12 labours was to kill this Nemean lion, which was a beast roaming the landscape and killing off everything around it. And he succeeded. What about Shakespeare? You told me something this morning, Steve, about Shakespeare.
Yeah. If you know the play A Midsummer Night's Dream, the rude mechanicals in it, rude meaning rough in that context, they put on a play. So you've got this play within a play. And it's actually comes from Virgil's telling, I think it was Virgil's telling, of an old Babylonian myth about Pyramus and Thisbe. And during that myth, these lovers, star-crossed lovers, are meant to meet, and Thisbe gets there first, and she's frightened by the lion, and she drops her veil, which the lion gets hold of and puts blood on it from his last kill. So Pyramus comes along and sees Thisbe's veil and thinks, oh, she's been slain, so he can't live without her, so he kills himself. So it's this, I mean, it sounds horrendous, but it's done. It's extremely funny because, of course, these actors do it as real ham actors. But the lion is the lion that Thisbe fled from. And just behind the lion, so this is to the left, is a misty patch of sky, which we'll talk a bit about later, and that is Thisbe's veil.
Right, I've got. And you wouldn't know. Steve Tonkin there, the thespian, not only astronomer, man of multi-talents, aren't you, Steve? I didn't know all that.
I act as an astronomer most of the time.
Anyway, so where do you find Leo? Well, the best time to find it during the month of March is rising in the southeast. And it's due south by mid-March, about 10 o'clock in the evening. So you look up straight south, you'll see it's obvious. Look for the backwards question mark, which is footed, if you will, or dotted better, by the bright star Regulus.
The dot and the question mark.
Yep.
If you're having trouble because you've got horizon light pollution and you can't actually see it too clearly, the thing to look for is the plough asterism in Ursa Major in the sky, because once the ploughs gets high, Leo is underneath it.
Yeah, directly south of the plough, and during this time, this springtime, the plough is almost overhead from our latitude. So, that's where you'll find Leo, just below it. So anyway, we've got Regulus there, the beautiful, brilliant blue-white star, very, very hot. Super giant white star. It's actually a single star in our telescopes, so we can't see it as anything other than a single star. But if we could go there, apparently it's a quadruple star system.
Yes.
Which means there are two pairs of stars rotating around each other and then rotating around their common centre of gravity. Imagine what that must be like if you were a planet around that system. You'd have 4 stars in your night sky or day sky. It would be really quite remarkable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there is. You can sometimes spot it in, again, binoculars or a telescope. Just up to the left of Regulus, there's a slightly fainter, slightly yellowish-looking star, so it looks like Regulus is a double star, but that's actually not. It's not physically associated with it.
Right. Yeah.
Line of sight thing.
But then just above Regulus, so at the point where the question mark curves, if you will, the start of is another bright star called Algiba, which is effectively then the neck of the Lion. And that's an easy double star. They really are 2 stars orbiting each other very slowly. And we can see that with binoculars or a small telescope too, a nice little pair there.
Or even sometimes, if it's a good still night, you can even pick it up with your naked eye.
Yep, yep. It's quite good.
And the next one above that as well is another little multiple star as well. Again, a line of sight thing. So you've got lots of interesting little bits like that, and it's you can test your observing skills, saying, okay, I can see that in binoculars. Can I make it out with the naked eye?
Yeah, yeah, and it's a good. Put your glasses on, of course. Give yourself a chance, and make sure that you're in a dark sky when you've been out there for 10 or 15 minutes. Let your eyes adapt to the darkness because it makes such a difference. What else we've got in Leo? We've got a variable star, which is just coming up to maximum now. All variable stars in constellations, most of them anyway, just have a single letter. So this one is R for Romeo, R Leonis. And it's a variable star. It's reddish in colour. You can see it with binoculars, and it's marked on the constellation map. And that varies over a course of about 310 days. From being a star we can see with the naked eye relatively easy at magnitude 4.4. That's a measure of how bright stars are. All the way down to, it goes down to magnitude 10, which means you would not be able to see it in binoculars, and you'd need a telescope to be able to see it. And it varies, as I said, over a period of 310 days. Fascinating.
Yeah.
But variable stars are really, the study of them is really something that you can do yourself and submit your data to the various associations, and it's useful. It's useful, practical science.
Yeah, it's one of the easiest ways amateur astronomers can contribute to professional work, because there's so many of these stars that the professionals just can't get the telescope time or whatever to see them. We can.
Yeah, it's down to us amateurs. Yeah, and it's a bit of fun too.
Yeah.
The other thing that we have in Leo is a couple of Messier objects. In fact, we have 4.
We do.
And they are?
What they are, M65 and 66.
Oh, yes.
And M95 and 96 and 105 as well.
It's nearly
5.
Yeah,
am I right there?
No, well, he's, of course, pretty close. So M96 and M105.
And M95.
And M95 there as well. M65 and M66. These are all galaxies, all of them, varying shapes and sizes. Binoculars, small telescopes, better, really.
Yeah, you want a bit of aperture for these.
Yeah.
So you will struggle with 50mm binoculars. Yeah, they are possible, but you really want it to be very, very dark. Galaxies are really badly affected by any light pollution.
Yeah.
So you'd need to wait until it's as high as you can in the sky. Yes, if you know what you're looking for, you can see it. But really, if you've got 70 or 80mm binoculars, even better. Then they become almost easy.
Yeah. And those Messier objects, we've talked about Messier many times on this show. Charles Messier was a Frenchman who was born in 1730-ish and spent a lot of his time as an astronomer hunting for comets.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he's not really remembered for those. I think it was 13 he discovered, but nobody really knows anything about his comets. What he's famous for is all the not comets he discovered, which were nebulous patches, misty patches in the sky, which we've subsequently learned are clusters and galaxies.
And nebulae, and which just means cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had. He eventually made a list of 110 of these objects, and it's a bit of a challenge and a bit of fun to try and see them all.
Well, you can't from this latitude in one night.
Yeah.
You go a bit further south, so you go down to the southern Spain or southern Portugal, the Algarve, and you can do it from there.
Yeah.
But you can't from here. But you can still try and see as many as you can, and we can help you do this, as Mark's about to explain.
Yes, indeed. So, a couple of years ago, the Fordingbridge astronomers gathered up in the New Forest. I was going to say the Black Forest, but the New Forest. It was black, very dark.
It was.
And we gathered on what we call then the Messier Challenge, which is to see as many of them as is possible. And only at the end of March can you see most of these objects, because the rest of the time the sun is covering some of them up.
Yeah.
So the best time is the end of March. So we're going to plump for Saturday the 30th of March this year, where we're going to try and gather together up in the New Forest and identify as many of these as possible. Now, last time we did it, we actually saw 100, which is not bad.
That's pretty good for this latitude.
Pretty
actually.
good. We had a very nice clear night. We started at dusk, so we captured the first ones as they're setting in the twilight. We work all the way through the night, and we wait until the sun rises before calling it a day. Bring along telescopes. We've got plenty of telescopes, binoculars. We've got warm soup and other stimulants.
Well, yes, one of which, one object we should have seen and didn't, for reasons of broken biscuit.
Yes, one of the clusters is called M79. It's below Orion. And of course, at this time of the year, at the end of March, it sets fairly soon after sunset. And we hadn't really taken this into account. So we were celebrating that we'd seen all the others, and we're all gathering and having a chat and a banter, as you can tell. And then suddenly someone said, "What? We've missed M79." And we checked, and lo and behold, it had gone behind this horizon, down below the horizon. And we were all passing around biscuits at the time that were all broken. So we decided this is now the Broken Biscuit Cluster in the south of Orion. Anyway, we'd be very pleased to welcome along astronomers to this event. We will post more about it during the month of March, both on Forest FM website, as well as our Fordingbridge Astronomers and the Wessex Astronomical Society sites. You don't have to stay out all night. Those that can get a special medal.
But you also, you don't need to bring a telescope or anything if you haven't got one. Share ours.
Yeah,
we'll show you what you can see, and that will actually give you an opportunity to see what different telescopes and things can do before you spend money on anything like that.
That's a great tip, Steve, because we'll be there with binoculars, from the smallest binoculars all the way up to 12 and 14-inch telescopes. So every possible variation in optical aid will be there. You can have a look. You can see what these objects look like with these telescopes, and it will help you in your buying decisions.
Yeah.
So that's great, and we look forward to posting more about that. But what about binocular objects that are rising? Let's talk about that veil again.
Yes, Melot 111. Melot was, I can't remember his first name now. He was an astronomer who specialised in things called open clusters. These are young stars in clusters. Excuse me. Yeah, and they're clusters of young stars, and they're really ideal objects for binoculars or small telescopes because you can resolve them into stars, and this particular one is huge. If you've got something like 10 by 50 binoculars, it only just fits in. So it's great. So it looks like a misty patch in the sky.
To the naked eye.
To the naked eye.
Yep.
Thank you for that. It's... as I mentioned before, it's sometimes known as Thisbe's veil, but it's really known to astronomers as Coma Berenices, which means Berenice's hair. And this was Queen Berenice of Egypt. She said she had this long, beautiful hair, and she said she would sacrifice her hair if the gods would allow her husband to come back safe from battle, which they did. So she chopped off her hair so to honour her. The gods put her beautiful hair in the sky. That is the legend behind Berenice's hair.
So
a bit sort of sexist, that.
Well, okay. This is many centuries
We
ago,
are,
so
yeah.
we're different.
You indeed.
But whereabouts do we find it? So we've got the map of Leo on the website.
Yeah.
So whereabouts from
It's
Leo will we find Colma?
it's literally to the left, a little bit to the left, and a little bit above.
Yeah.
So the
Behind the hind legs of...
you got this brightish triangle of stars there, and it's really quite lovely to look at. But don't stop there. If you go back towards Leo, if you imagine you've got the lion there and you're looking just above his rump, back, there is this most beautiful star field. It's lots and lots of coloured stars in it. So if you everyone seems to think all stars are white. Well, no, all stars are not white, and you can really see this in this star field. So just cast around, and you'd be surprised how much you can see there.
Yeah, and again, 10 by 50 binoculars.
Yeah.
The type of thing that you have in the boot of the car are really ideal for learning your way around the sky. They give you a wide field of view, pretty much ideal for starting astronomy.
And it's the right way up.
Yeah, right way up, and the right weight. Anything heavier than that, and your arms get tired, and they're hard to keep still. Whereas good old 10 by 50s or 7 by 50s as well,
Or even things like 8 by 42s, sort of standard birding binoculars.
Yeah.
Surprisingly good.
Yeah. Great. So I think that's us done for the month. Of course, you can find out more about what we do at Fordingbridge Astronomers website or at the Wessex Astronomy Society website, and of course here on Forest FM.
Yep.
So we'll look forward to talking to you next month when we'll be in daylight savings time again, won't we? British summertime.
But we can start talking about possibly the realm of the galaxies.
Yes, we can. And also hopefully the comet. Let's look forward to that for next month.
We'll see. So it's fuzzy blobs next month, probably.
Yeah. Okay, all the best.
And goodbye from Steve Tonkin.
And from Mark Hardaker. Right. Take care.
Bye-bye.